experienced an intuition or had a gut feeling? Maybe you had a vision while you were hiking or an aha moment while doing algebra. But have you ever listened to those feelings? Maybe allowed them to guide you? Or maybe you regret not listening to those feelings? It's interesting, intuition, gut feelings, and seemingly indescribable moments of connection are familiar to many. Some brush these off as strange and then quickly forget about them, but others listen and notice that they can be a guide for maybe solving a problem. These subjective yet very personal moments are often reluctantly spoken about within the field of global or Western science. Moments realized, then quickly rationalized to abide by those so-called objective rules of the scientific method. But this neutralization of science has disconnected this subject from the human, the more than human, in the land, disconnecting from the very origins of science that center around learning from sensory, experiential, observational, and even spiritual methods of connecting and knowing that through deep relationships humans have made through these lands for thousands of years. These knowledges are convergences of energy that allow us to understand the world around us, like trusting a gut feeling when we're caretaking or navigating land or water, maybe without technology. Or maybe observing the depth ladybugs hibernate while learning alongside generations of passed on land-based teachings that a beetle can predict forthcoming cold weather, thereby guiding community relations and preparations for a cold winter. This science was to survive, but it was also to thrive. I didn't always understand or even know about these relational aspects of math or science. I didn't think they existed. Since colonization and capitalism, these relational scientific knowings of the human experience, the more than human, like the stars, the insects, the waves, the winds, or knowings of aha, intuition, and connection, they've been discredited because it's difficult to pass on, commodify, or control knowledge that can't be replicated, standardized, reduced, or generalized. Because these knowledges are so specific to land, community, or even human. But that's where all the power is held. This standardized Cartesian science and mathematics is how I knew and defined the subject for most of my life, void of culture, of spirit, of human, or any land-based connections. I never saw myself in these subjects. I could never relate. I failed. I avoided. I was told I should go into the arts. I successfully kept math and science at multiple arm's lengths away from me for many years. Little did I know mathematics would eventually be in my PhD title. So what happened? Well, in almost a decade-long work and travel journey around the globe to find myself, it was an extremely powerful, intuitive experience that altered my path, or maybe lured me onto this path. And this moment happened to me while I was studying in England, and I stumbled upon this graphic of several body tally counting systems out of Papua New Guinea. And this was a graphic that showed numbers represented on all parts of the body. All parts of the body. Like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Numbers represented from 16 to 37, represented as eyes, as ears, as elbows. It was like I hadn't realized how fuzzy everything was around me because all of a sudden that clarity was overwhelming. But the moment that snapped me out of my Cartesian anxiety, and only for a second, because I tell you, anxiety runs deep, was the number 30, represented as the belly button. In this moment, I felt permission to ask questions that I had never thought about before, that I never thought I could ask before. Like, why wasn't I allowed to count on my fingers when I was in school? Why not my entire body? Why were numbers taught to me as abstract concepts to be memorized and disconnected from me? From these graphics, numbers revealed a deeper meaning, disclosing connections with community, with body, with touch. And the number 30, the belly button, it's inspired connections with story, with spirit, with the blood memories of matrilineal ancestors. Mathematics can have deep, personal meanings and relationships with culture, with land, with community. And in that aha moment of belly button numbers, I knew something was meaningful, something that I had to follow. So this sent me on this journey that I tell you was absolutely terrifying because I had no idea what I was doing. But this convergence of energy was so strong in its guiding force that it enticed me at that point to move back to Canada, to Turtle Island, and to pursue a PhD in something I didn't know at that time, where, incredibly confused, I wondered and I thought there had to be culturally based, subjective, relational mathematics on Turtle Island like there is on Papua New Guinea, right? But at this early stage in my journey, I was very naive. I didn't know about ethnomathematics. I didn't know, or never mind knowing about indigenous or relational mathematics or science, but I knew there was a reason I had to explore this. And this reason became clearer the more that I reconnected with the knowledges and the sciences of these lands, with my Métis ancestry, and allowed the diverse threads that make up my DNA to inspire my journey of weaving together multiple ways of knowing, being, and doing mathematics and science. And as I became more connected with relational science, I noticed that humans were becoming more disconnected from those complex relational energies that guided our ancestors. From the doctrine of discovery to the Indian Act, science slowly lost its relationship with body, land, culture, and even spirit, creating power imbalances that reinforce this universal and seemingly objective narrative. But don't get me wrong, these methods of science are not wrong, and we've learned so much from them, but they're not the only way to learn and thrive alongside these scientific knowledges that are all around us. So a few months back, I experienced a moment of both maybe convergence and divergence of energy while I was walking my dog by the river. And it was a moment where I was parched for connection. And I wanted to embrace at that time the teachings of the setting sun, the winter bird ancestors, those warm Chinook winds. But instead of connecting, I became distracted. What was this land like before all this concrete, glass, and steel? What frequencies and convergences of energies are being disconnected and disrupted because of all of this development and human interference without reciprocity? What would the horizon and the wind teach me if not obstructed by buildings? What would I learn from those high frequencies of the bird songs on a winter evening without the sounds of the car horns or the media helicopters? What understandings am I missing because of this sensory pollution that is so pervasive, it's become normalized? In a moment of needed connection with the horizon, with the birds and the winds, I felt my senses and my spirit being pulled towards this familiar feeling of being distracted from land and from my own spirit. It was a disruption of flow. The flow of needed connection to truly understand the more than human that has long been forgotten about, hidden, tucked away, and left to unwillingly hibernate. Maybe only wakened in short bursts of connecting when maybe escaping the city or going to some untouched mountain. But when these moments of relationality are able to connect with other moments, other particles, all of which are in constant motion, they can generate different energies and frequencies and interferences that together create stories, knowledges, understandings. This connection, flux, or motion is named as spirit by some, energy or quantum by others. Dr. Leroy Littlebear of Alienation explained to me the quantum principle of the absorption-emission spectra through a Blackfoot worldview. And he said, Western science prefers to work within these set boundaries, like on a frequency on an FM radio, where Western scientists only allow themselves to experience and understand and validate science through this limited, measurable, objective frequencies, like the parameters on a radio, even though there are known frequencies and knowledges that have been experienced outside of those limits. But Indigenous peoples have explored beyond these constraints of the objective knowledges, beyond those FM radio channels, through relationships and energies and frequencies that are outside the limits of more objective human senses, gifted through chickadee sonic frequencies, the wind's air pressure changes. Indigenous science embraces this wider spectra of knowledge, gifted through kin-like relationships with the more than human, uninterrupted by sensory pollution. But even now, after years of working alongside knowledge keepers and elders, Indigenous scientists, and the land, experiencing relational, cultural, spiritual, and scientific connections, that Cartesian anxiety lingers and taunts like the Wetiko, that need for certainty, neutrality, validity taunts my inner sense, my intuition, my gut feelings. It devalues the depth of teachings gifted to me in a sweat lodge ceremony. But centuries of reinforcing the methods of science that purposefully continue to try to remove the human and the spirit run deep within my everyday. Information is still prized over understanding. Information is collected, stored, taken, disconnected from human and origins. But understanding is connection, is in relationship with, is embodied, is gifted, it has spirit. Information is knowing the cardinal directions, but blindly trusting a compass, or maybe a satellite map is a better example. Understanding is experiencing, truly experiencing the trigonometry of navigation through zenith and through relational landmarks of hills and mountains and trees alongside celestial cycles. Information is generic morning bird songs, linear north-south migration patterns, or consulting a barometer. Understanding is learning birdsong changes in sonic frequencies based on weather, humidity, temperature, and knowing how to learn from those teachers how to survive extreme weather, find food, or prepare for danger. Humans have forgotten how to embody these understandings of knowledges and frequencies of land and cosmos. It's like a neglected relationship. When a relationship is forgotten about, ignored, not maintained, the connection fractures. And this is what's currently happening, where humans are forgetting about the relationship with their intuitive and spiritual knowledges and connections with the more than human world around them, while normalizing this disconnect of sensory pollution. But the earth, the ancestor rocks, the animals, the trees will continue to remember us humans until the time when we remember them and their science and reciprocity. So I invite you to embrace the teachings of the world around you, to feel the animation of the earth breathing beneath you. Maybe next time you have a gut feeling or an intuitive moment, embrace it. Listen, feel, remember all of the energies that are coming together at that moment to guide you. Think about how you think of numbers. Are they abstract? Are they connected to toe or finger, belly button, or story? Can they be? What scientific knowledges are we missing if we don't open up our minds, our hearts, and our bodies to both information and understanding from all that is around us and beyond? So maybe give math and science a hug and allow those kinship ties to rethread. Hi, hi.